a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
I can't.
Okay.
There you go.
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our board meeting today. I am Mike Agee, Vice President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your cellular phones and electronic devices and check them to ensure they are put on silent mode. Now I would like to introduce our timekeeper, parliamentarian, and management personnel. Our timekeeper, Tracy Bussebarger. Our parliamentarian, Ray Chornenke. Our management, Bill Cook, General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Whiprud, Director of Building and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds. Jolynn Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Marcia Johnson, Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment, and she's up in the booth. Good morning. I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans, Audiovisual Engineer, Carla Young, and David Michael, Camera Operators. Additional RCSC management, Polly Crisino. She's Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager. I would also like to welcome all RCSC members who are attending our meeting for the first time. Our first item of business is the roll call of voting members by Secretary Linefsky and quorum confirmation.
President Lair. Vice President Agee.
Here.
Treasurer Akins.
Here.
I'm here. Director Collins.
Here.
Director Fimmel.
Here.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Nowakowski.
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Secretary Linefsky. Approval of the minutes. The minutes of the June 30th, 2022 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? There being no corrections or additions, the minutes of the June 30th, 2022 meeting are approved. Thank you. Now the treasurer's report. I would like to ask if there are any questions on the treasurer's report. Okay. There being no questions or addition, the treasurer's report is filed for audit. The management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report? Director McAdam.
Yes, Mr. President, I have a couple of questions. One of them is related to the second item of the in-work projects. The Mountain View Rec Center says that a schematic design is in progress. And I'm just curious about how this is different from what was presented in the spring.
Vice President Agee, Board of Directors. It's on track with what we proposed to be doing. I guess I'm not sure of your question, Director McAdam.
Well, I'm just wondering what the progress is over what we had in the springtime. What are the new
What the progress is we've
components of it?
gone on contract with CCBG, and that took a little while. So at the end of June, early July, we're on contract. So they're in schematic design right now, and they are working with bringing on board the consultants that are going to be part of the project, the theater consultant, data consultant, landscape, civil, these kind of things. So they're gathering their team and they're starting to work. One of the next things is as I mentioned in the report, we're going to be soliciting responses from contractors to be our construction manager at risk. So that process is going on right now.
Okay, a follow-up question to that. So as far as you know, there aren't any changes over what we had seen in the springtime at this point, but presumably we would be kept abreast of any changes to that design, or how does that work?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. As we advance the design, it's my intention to bring in a series of design advocacy groups, if you will, involving operations personnel, club personnel, to help to understand where the design is at the moment and help advise going forward if we're making sure we're accounting for all the needs. And the first one out of the gate, we're going to try to get the Sun City players together with myself and probably operations to talk with the theater consultant and the architect in probably about 3 weeks' time to go over what they've developed and where it needs to go from there.
Okay. One follow-up question to that. Thank you. So in the spring, what we saw for the new Performing Arts Center showed a 45-foot roof line, and I assume that we're still looking at something in that vicinity. And if that's the case, as you're meeting with groups other than just the players, you will be meeting with the folks who live on 105th Avenue, right, to discuss what it would mean to them to have a 45-foot building put up in their backyard?
I believe at some point we will have a public forum. I'll have Mr. Cook talk about that. But the roof line is under 45 feet, and we will be seeking a variance from the Maricopa County for it. So if there's a public component to that process, I'm not sure there is, but that's also an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking when we did Lakes East-West, there was quite an uproar from the community that there hadn't been buy-in from property owners that were looking at a 26-foot line, or roof line that's quite a bit further away from their properties. And I just would encourage you all to make sure that you actually don't just go by what the variance allows you to do, but that there's a discussion with the people who live there who are going to be potentially faced with a very, very large building very close to their property lines.
Certainly. Again, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
Director Collins?
I have a follow-up question, sir. I'm sorry. In the spring, we discussed the bathrooms at this new theater, how many there were going to be, and maybe it wasn't adequate for our age group in our community. And what I'm understanding is now it's not going to be brought back to us to look at it or put anything in. We're going to have to do change orders, which will increase the price of the bids.
Director Agee, Board of Directors, no, that's not the case. We haven't sat down to go over the plan as it comes through schematic design yet, and the bathroom concern will be noted and addressed within the physical limitations.
Before it goes out to bid.
Way before it goes out to bid. Well, we're not bidding the project, as you know. We're going to be getting a construction manager at risk. They're going to be the GC hired up front prior to the bid, but there won't be a bid. But
right, 'cause my whole thing back in the spring was these change orders cost us money, and we should know what we want before we go in, so we're not doing change orders.
you will have every opportunity to see the layout as it's evolving, and at some point, again, based on space constraints, it might be we have X number of bathrooms. The code says you need this many. I'm sure we'll meet the code. We have to meet the code.
Well,
but whether it is more, to your point, I'm not quoting how many, but
That's okay.
you will certainly have a chance to see it. But once we're in construction, you won't be able to change order to say add more bathrooms. It just will be a physical limitation, I think, in the space. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Vice President, I have a question.
Director Fimmel?
Back at the, back in the project was first initiated, there was a very lovely concept drawing of it. We ultimately ended up with concept 2. You're now doing the schematics. So I'm wondering if we have provided or can provide the concept drawing for the actual building that's being designed right now.
The answer is yes. We don't have it yet, but once we start getting some architectural plans on paper, I'll make sure to share it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. General Manager Cook?
Vice President Hagee, Board of Directors, so thank you. So just to clarify, so, our assumption is we're building to code, okay? And we have a preliminary quote from Alston that would, make that assumption in that design. If we get to a point where the board decides that we need to increase or change the design in any way, then that could affect whatever that quote that we currently have as kind of our guideline as to where we're at. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that.
All right. Director Collins?
If that's the case, then why don't we get to see it before you put this out there?
We are,
Why-
I believe, we don't have it yet. We don't have a detailed design yet. Once we have that, it absolutely will be shared.
And then we can change it.
You can absolutely change that.
And not be charged more money.
No, it could affect the quote that we currently have in place. We don't know yet, and it could affect the design. So it could change. So I'm just, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Oh, and I'm sorry, one other thing is that, Mike, in terms of transparency and such, the board will be part of the decision-making when we send an RFP for the GC and the contractor at risk, and that you will be involved in, that decision-making process as well.
Okay, thank you. All right,
One quick question.
Secretary Lenevsky.
General Manager Cook, RFP stands for Request for Proposal, correct?
Director Lenevsky, yes.
And GC stands for
General contract.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I apologize for that. Yes.
All right. So there being no corrections or additions, Director McAdam.
Yeah,
Sorry.
first we have to ask if anybody has anything else they want to say, so.
I was going to tell him you had your hand up.
Thank you, Darla. So I also have a question about the softball field improvements, and I know that the president of the softball club was engaged in a long conversation just before the meeting began with Mr. Cook, so I don't know what the tenor of that was, but I do know that the softball club is a little bit dismayed at what they see as delays in the building of their clubhouse. And so I was just curious, on this sheet, it says that the project is back on schedule with proposals being sought from multi-card and fire security, electronics and communications for door security and video surveillance elements, which is what is put forward as the reason for the delay. And I'm just curious about this. Can you give us an idea of how complicated that actually is?
Vice President Hagee, Director McAdam, Board of Directors, I'm glad you brought that up. So since it's now an open discussion on this, I'd like to start by saying that this was an original PIF project slated for 2024. Okay, and in the latest PIF, in looking at where the funds are and when projects were scheduled, especially with large projects coming up, we felt that, we had some additional funding that we could utilize and starting in 2022, and so we pulled that project up, which I believe the club was very happy about. Now, when a project is on the PIF, that's not the completion date, okay? That is when the funding turns on, okay? So we turned on the funding in 2022. We never committed to any date with respect to the softball. We can't commit to a date until we have a detailed design, until we have civil engineering done. And so, we did not have that. So we originally thought there's two components to this. One is a clubhouse, one is a storage facility. Okay, at first sight, Mike suggested that the storage facility was fairly simplistic. It's 4 walls, we'll put it in, okay, and let's get that done first. And I said, that's great, let's try and get them as much as we can, as soon as we can. Okay, but then operations came to us and took a look at it and said, well, we have issues with respect to theft at that location. We should include the entire project under a security umbrella. So now we are, and I thought that was a very good idea, given the amount of theft that we've had there. And we know that they were buying new equipment, a new pitching machine. So that's the last thing we want to do, is to waste their $3,000 by not putting in the proper security measures. So what we did is now we've included ingress and egress, we've included cameras. That requires data lines, okay? So data needs to be run to that. Electrical needs to be run to that facility. And it's not like there is a box sitting right next to that where the storage facility would be. So now we have to do a complete design, including all of the security measures that are going to be associated with that. So that put us back a little bit. And I will say that last month, if you look at the management report, Mike's team processed 500 work orders. Okay, so we have that. We have the lake mitigation going on. We have Mountain View. We have the softball. We have 70 other projects that we budgeted for this year. So, and then we have additional projects that the board has commissioned us with, which one of those is putting in pickleball at Lakeview. That's an entirely new project. It's not something that's simple. So when it comes down to all of those projects, given that we have 3 people in our project management B&I organization, we have to prioritize. Okay, and we have been given, an end date for pickleball, which is when we tear down pickleball at Mountain View. We need to be up and running. So we have that, in my opinion, becomes a priority. So that took some time and effort. That was hundreds of hours of time to get us to where we are today. So it's not as if we've ignored we've ignored softball. Okay, but we have to prioritize. Now we're trying to make some changes going into the budget year next year by adding another project manager that will help. But you have to remember, that's not the only project. People come up and say, well, it's only conduit. I get it, okay? But we have other things that we have to prioritize. When we have lights go out, okay, and we have to replace lighting in some place, we have security and safety issues that come up, we have to address those. Those become our priority. Okay, so I hope, and I had a great discussion with Mr. Koppas right now. I think we're in sync. I think, I've opened up my door and said, call me anytime. Let Mike do his job. Okay, call me, and if you want any updates, I will give those to you. But we've also made a decision that for every member exchange, I will give a State of the Union for projects. So I will make that commitment to, review the management report, but then give a little bit more detail as to where we are. Okay, so that's my commitment. Okay, I've heard you. All right, so hopefully that answers your question, Director McAdam, and your concern.
Director McAdam.
So I appreciate the fact I know you guys all work really, really hard and that you have a lot of irons and a lot of fires.
Thank you.
However, I am concerned because the reason that the softball project was brought forward from 2024 to 2022 was a matter of some urgency. And that was actually a signal that this was supposed to be something that was to be prioritized. And I don't know that we as a board have ever said we think that pickleball should displace that. And my concern is that it is the purview of the board to assign relative priorities. That's not only a management decision. And pulling that forward by 2 years was an indication that we consider this to be an urgent matter. And because of its scope, it's fairly small compared to the other things that we're looking at doing. I think we need to stick with the prioritization that was given by the board approval of that in the PIF. And if you need to deviate from that, I think that you actually need to come and ask for approval to do that.
And Director McAdam, so again, I was never given the priority that softball was a priority over the lake, over any other of the projects. When I put together that PIF and I put it together, I do that based on the number of cycles or the availability of work effort that we have to do projects. Knowing that we have Mountain View coming up, I put it into this year, and then it's also funding. So it had nothing to do with prioritization. That's what I give to you. Now, again, I'm going to state again, that is the start date. That's when we can start work on it. No, I don't ever remember that at any time the board had said, softball is your priority. I understand that they have, it's an issue with them with respect to their storage of their stuff. I coached softball for 15 years. At times, I would have to have my own storage facility for practices because I didn't have enough room in my garage. So I would have to go to a storage facility. I get it. I understand it. But it's not safety. It's not security. And quite honestly, we're taking away from pickleball at some point when we get rid of Mountain View. And so, we want to make sure that we have, and we know that pickleball is the #1 growing sport. You can't open up the paper without seeing pickleball mentioned. So we wanted to make sure that we have a pathway for pickleball, and so that we know, whenever we break ground, that's when we want to have pickleball available. So I don't know what is the overlying prioritization making softball #1.
Mr. Vice President, may I
say something, please?
Director Akins.
If you've been following this all along, I know that, like you said, you wanted hard to really do something for softball because you didn't want them to have to wait because of the things that were going on. But then as things were going on, then we realized that what we had in place was not secure enough. So we want to do it right the first time. I would rather do it right the first time than just throw something together and then they have to come back later and then we have to redo something. So I know that it's going to be a wait for them, but I'm sure they're going to be extremely happy when we're done because it's going to be done right the first time and we have to make sure it is secure because of all the issues going on there. So if you've been following this all along, that's how it goes, and projects get delayed all the time. If you were around when they were doing South here, I was around with board members at the board meetings when they were doing South. It got delayed a couple times, and people were very unhappy. They're extremely happy now that it's done.
Okay.
And if I could respectfully state, we used to have a process where we would only do one PIF at a time. Yes. And I didn't necessarily agree with that, and since we have now, Mike as B&I, and we split the operations piece into a project management role, I felt that it would make sense to not just limit us to one PIF, to make sure that we can get as many of our members what they want as quickly as they want. So we're trying to manage that, and this is the first time that this has been done in the organization as far as I know. And so we're trying to figure that out, trying to figure out head count and how that is affected. And so, I would ask that that the membership and the board have a little patience in having us, get our feet wet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Mr. Vice President?
Okay. Director Fimmel.
I have two comments, because I think I heard a suggestion that the board had or hadn't directed that the pickleball at the tennis courts be moved forward, but I seem to recall that the president of the board did make a commitment that I believe, if I'm quoting it correctly, a shovel full of dirt would not be turned until the issue of the pickleball was resolved, which is an issue that has to be resolved before the Mountain View process can begin. So in some respects, that was a commitment that was made. And so that is why I believe that some time and effort has been given to the pickleball. My second point that I think I heard today was a suggestion that when projects are running behind, that you come to the board and the board advise you as to which they think is a greater priority. And I think that's why we have you here, Mr. Cook, and maybe I'm confused, is to manage these projects. I'm not sure that this board wants to become involved in assisting you as to which project is more important than another. I assume you're doing all of this for the benefit of the membership.
Director Fimmel, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I agree with you 100%. You are paying me to, and Mr. Weeprud to prioritize, but we certainly listen to what the membership is saying, and we listen to what the board says. I know you guys are the ears of the membership. So, if you tell us that there's something that takes a priority, we would have to look at that, and we would tell you the ramifications of that. Now, with respect to the pickleball, this started a year and a half ago under former President Wilson, and we had numerous meetings with the pickleball club, and the entire board was invited to those meetings. So and I attended. So that's where I picked up my prioritization with respect to pickleball, is through those meetings, through the 700 plus members. I'm sure Director McAdam, you probably know the number of members today, but it's over 700. That's a big number. So that's why, I look at softball. They have a wonderful field. There won't be one softball player that says, we don't have a wonderful field. My daughters went through collegiate softball, and I've played on terrible fields to great fields. This is in the top 1% of any field that I've ever played in, and we've played Division I softball. So it's a great field. I think that's the important piece, that's a safe field that they can play on, and it's something that they can be proud of. So the next step is then to get, the storage and to get the clubhouse. So thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Cook. Okay, I would like to move on. There being no corrections or additions, the management report has been accepted. Thank you, General Manager Cook, for the management report. The next item of business is the second reading of a motion to amend Board Policy 17, titled Golf, section titled Golf Tournament and Event Criteria, items number 3 and 8. Director Collins.
I move to amend Board Policy 17, titled Golf, section titled Golf Tournament and Event Criteria, items numbers 3 and 8 as follows. Golf tournament and event criteria. Only approved tournaments will be allowed at RCSC golf facilities. The following criteria approval will be used. Number 1, sponsorship by RCSC chartered club. Number 2, sponsorship by an organization wherein the majority of membership is constituted by RCSC cardholders. Number 3, tournaments sponsored by non-resident groups may be approved, providing one regulation course is available for non-tournament play on each side of Grand Avenue. That is the change on number 3. Do I have to read the whole thing? Yeah. And then the next change will be on number 8. No golf tournament may be scheduled on Tuesdays, Ladies' Day, or Wednesdays, Men's Day, without the consent of the SCWGA or the SCMGA clubs respectively. Golf tournaments on other days will be scheduled to provide at least one regulation golf course open to regular play both north and south of Grand Avenue. Non-resident tournament groups are prevented from booking more than 2 events per month and consecutive weeks for the same day of the week. Non-resident tournament play is also prevented from booking time during the overseeding process or any other time 4 or more golf courses are closed, or have golf cart restrictions. Non-resident golf events will be limited to booking 10 months in advance of requested play date. That is the second change. That's all that changed in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Collins. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who signed up to speak on this motion only.
No one has signed up to speak on this motion, Mr. Vice President.
Oh, thank you. The motion before you is the second reading of the motion to amend Board Policy 17, titled Golf, section titled Golf Tournament and Event Criteria, items number 3 and 8. Director Collins, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first before its adoption?
Yes, thank you. This is a very good change to this motion. It gives the residents more golf course time that they can have where it won't be taken by outside play. So I urge everyone to vote for this because it's good for the membership.
Okay, thank you. Other board members, discussion? Director Aiken, or McAdam, sorry.
Thank you. So I just do have a question for clarification in number 8, that last sentence. I just want to make sure that we all agree on what that actually means. Non-resident golf events will be limited to booking 10 months in advance of requested play date. Does that mean that they have to book more than 10 months in advance, or they're limited to booking within 10 months?
Vice President Iggy, Director McAdam, board members, that would limit them to booking no more than 10 months in advance, so 10 months or less. Currently, we take non-resident groups well in advance of 10 months, so that gives, or resident groups, sorry, it would give resident groups an extra 2 months or more to book any events that they want scheduled.
Okay, so I just have a question for the rest of my colleagues here. Was that clear to all of you that that's the intention of this, or do we need to just tweak some language to make sure that it's clear?
Mike? I want to make what I think is a friendly amendment to the motion, where it says limited to booking 10 months in advance. I'd like to add the words no more than 10 months in advance. Will be limited to booking, new words, no more than 10 months in advance. And the second to last sentence. In other words, the sentence says line begins with restrictions.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Director McAdam. Director McAdam seconded. So now we need to vote on the amendment. Okay, so Secretary Lanowski, will you take a roll call vote for the amendment only?
Okay. Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Iggy.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. The vote is 8-0 for it.
Okay. So is there any more discussion on the motion?
Not for me.
Okay, so again, the motion before you is to amend Board Policy 17, titled Golf, section titled Golf Tournament and Event Criteria, items 3 and 8. Secretary Lanowski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Director Iggy.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. It's 8-0
Okay.
in favor.
Vice President? Not on.
You know,
Can't hear me? Oh.
okay. That's good, sorry.
I would like to waive the third reading on this motion.
We don't have.
Okay, we don't have third readings in
Oh,
here.
right, we're good. Oh,
Okay.
good. What's the
We're good,
last one?
But I like the way you think.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I want to move this
So
on.
with a vote of 8-0, the motion passes. It's final reading. The next item of business is a consent calendar item requesting the approval of a charter for the Sun City Frat Club. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar item Director Wilson.
Vice President Ege, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Vice President, I believe that Director Akins wanted to waive a second reading.
No,
Is that
the third.
correct?
No.
he said a third reading.
Forgot.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Okay,
That was my mistake.
thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
I will second that motion.
So, General Manager Cook?
Vice President Ege, thank you. Board of Directors, I guess this would be directed at our parliamentarian. I just want to make sure that this gets passed. So you pass the amendment, but then do you have to pass the amended motion?
That was the second vote.
That was the second vote? So the
Yes.
first, okay, I
Yes.
apologize.
No,
I
that's why we voted twice, once on the amendment and the second one on the amended motion. But thank you for asking, very good. Keep us on track if you would. I'm kind of new at this. Okay, so back to our motion to approve the consent calendar item. I do need a second.
Second.
So Director Fimmel has seconded. So now I will ask for discussion. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar item? Okay, seeing there's no discussion, Secretary Lineski, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collin.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Ege.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. It's 8 in the affirmative, 0 against.
Okay, so with the 8-0, 8 in favor, the motion is passed. For new business, Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the cardholders who sign up to speak on the new business items only.
Okay, when I read your name, please come up to the front tables right behind General Manager Cook and sit, and then I'll call your name to the podium. And when you come up, please state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you're speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments, as indicated by the light on the stage. Sherry Sargent, Joe Broach, Lisa Bush, and Terry Johnson. So the first person I'll call to speak would be Sherry Sargent.
Hi there. On behalf of Breast Reds Dog Club and all of the Sun City fellow canine lovers here,
Can you note your
we
member
want to
number,
say
please?
that we are so excited to have the
Sherry?
opportunity to perhaps see,
We need your member number.
oh, I'm sorry, Sherry Sargent, 122262. And that's not a birth date, by the way. I wish it were. We're so excited to have the opportunity to perhaps finally see an indoor climate control training and socialization facility here in Sun City. You'll note that our club is listed under social clubs of Sun City. However, due to existing restrictions, our activities must take place off of RCSC grounds with our best friends. It makes it difficult to be a social club when we don't have a space where we can be social. It'd be so awesome to have our canine companions with us at our social events, which could be numerous and only limited by our imaginations and a dedicated indoor climate-controlled space. This is so needed by our ever-increasing membership, which would only expand multifold with year-round training and socialization opportunities. It would make a huge difference, not only for the members here today, but for future members. We're overjoyed at the opportunity to not only expand our club, but to have one of the premier training and socialization facilities in the area. This facility could certainly influence canine lovers to come here and could make Sun City a premier destination retirement community. Many thanks to the board and management for understanding our needs and for taking steps toward making them a reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Broach.
Joe Broush, 155997. Mr. Vice President, board members, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of someone, a fellow member that couldn't be here and wanted her voice heard. Quote, hello, my name is Janet Curry, 155488. I have asked to have this letter read at the September 29th board meeting. I am writing to support Director Nowakowski's motion to remove the golf cart rental package for annual passes sold to non-residents on our RCSC golf courses. Under the current practice, a non-resident can purchase a guaranteed cart rental for each and every round of golf they play over a year's time.
Excuse me, Mr. Broach.
Yes.
We're just speaking to the.
No, it's all new business.
It's all new business.
All new business. Okay, sorry for the interruption, sorry.
That's okay. Under the current practice, a non-resident can purchase a guaranteed cart rental for each and every round of golf they play over a year's time for an extra $500. As a member, I cannot purchase that same privilege for any price, which seems fundamentally unfair. Instead, I have to gamble on a cart being available on the first-come, first-served practice in place now for members. This has happened to me more than once. It becomes an even bigger issue when I have invited guests to join me who need a cart. It was a disappointment to my guests who had traveled many miles to visit and an embarrassment to me who had been touting all of our wonderful amenities in Sun City. Therefore, when I have guests and am not assured a golf cart, we will play at Sun City Country Club or another area golf course where I can reserve a golf court when I make a tee time. Yes, the cost is higher, but not that much. Being assured a golf cart is worth the extra expense. I have heard that non-resident golf passes produce $300,000 of revenue. I am asking that you, the board, also consider the other side of the coin, which is the lost revenue. When RCSC members forego their own golf courses and spend their money elsewhere, not only are you losing out on golf green fees and cart rentals, but my guests and I may be purchasing food and beverages as well as golf merchandise. I have relatives who winter in the area and have friends playing our courses with non-resident passes, so my cousin and her husband are considering purchasing our non-resident passes with guaranteed carts. Wouldn't it be ironic and sad if they could ride and I must walk when we play together on an RCSC golf course? Please vote in favor of Director Nowakowski's motion. Thank you, end quote. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa Bush. Oh. Okay. And Terry Johnson.
This is my first time here, so you'll have to excuse me, but I do have a question. There was a facility that opened.
Name and member number, please.
Pardon me?
Name and member number.
I'm sorry, Terry Johnson. You want my member ID?
Yes.
I don't know by heart. 146451.
Thank you.
Okay? Yep. I live over off of 111th Avenue in Peoria, and I'd like to know how a facility was opened at the funeral home. I'm not sure if it's a drug rehab. I'm not sure what it is, but it's in our Sun City community, across the street from Walgreens, where I shop.
We're here to speak to the new business only.
Okay, so I'm not sure how to address the committee on that.
So can you come to our member board exchange?
Vice President Aggie, yes, this is a SHOA issue. It's not RCSC. We are only in charge of RCSC properties and golf courses.
Okay.
Who you are wanting to talk to is Sun City Homeowners Association.
Okay, and then they could answer that question.
Yes. Matter of fact, we have a member of their board here today, and you could address him. So,
And who would
we can talk to Mike Wendell.
Who would that board member be?
In the yellow shirt right there at the table. You can talk to him.
Oh, is that?
Nice job, Sue.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you. Okay, are there, Marcia, that's all the speakers?
Mr. Vice President, no one else has signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for my clunkiness up here. I'm trying to follow my script. So the first item of new business is a motion on behalf of the Best Friends Dog Club to add to the PIF budget an indoor climate-controlled training and socialization facility outlined in the Best Friends Dog Club business plan. Director Collins.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming. On behalf of the Best Friends Dog Club, the BFDC, I move an indoor climate-controlled training and socialization facility as outlined in the BFDC business plan be added to the PIF.
Do I have a second?
I'd second.
Okay, second by Director Wilson. Yeah, we're going to open up for discussion. So General Manager Cook, if you want to be the first to.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So but you know, you're kind of the head of the table there. So we'll open up for discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Director Collins.
I support this motion because over 100 members of the BFDC should have its own dedicated space where training equipment can be left out, ready to use without having been moved and set up each time class is held. The current BFDC training area is simply too small. There is not enough training space. There is also not enough waiting space for the class in session and the class that it follows it. Even with the sail shade and the training area is still in the sun. It doesn't protect members from the heat, and even when the air temperature is a comfortable 77 degrees, the turf temperature is well over 100. This isn't good for members or their dogs. In a present location, there is no space for the BFDC members and their dogs to socialize. An indoor climate-controlled training and socialization facility would allow the BFDC to provide training and socialization year-round without regard to outdoor temperatures. Whether they are hot or cold, it will allow the BFDC to offer training and socialization to all its members on a year-round basis. I support the BFDC in this effort, and I urge you to vote for placing them on the PIF.
Okay, thank you, Director Collins.
Vice President?
So board members?
I'm not really sure that we need that much convincing. I'm just sorry that I wasn't around when they first put that over there, because you really needed this from the beginning. So this is all like a no-brainer. So I'm not sure you really need that. I need that speech. I understand completely.
Okay. All right. Any other?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Secretary Lanevsky.
General Manager Cook, I have a couple questions. This is a general thing to put on the PIF. It has no funding. It doesn't say how much it is. Do we have any idea how much it is? Or what's the process? I just need to be educated on this.
Director Lanevsky, no, we do not know. I will say that we have already, this was brought up by Director Fimmel probably 3 or 4 months ago, and we don't disagree that it's something that's needed, but we've looked at this already, and it's not going to be inexpensive, but I couldn't tell you a number today.
Okay, so my question is, are we giving you a blank check without knowing what we're paying for, per se, or do we have to come back here?
So Director Lanevsky, so the process would be that, the board is recommending that we add it to the PIF, and then it's my responsibility with my team and staff to take a look at the current PIF budget, the current PIF budget, and what we think the forecast of PIF will be, and determine that where that fits in the current list of projects that are already approved. So you remember we have, I think it's $113 million in projects, if I'm not mistaken, going out to 2032. So we would have to look at this. And so we're not in disagreement that it's required, but I just want to make sure that if, it looks like it will be a positive vote for this, that it's not a guarantee that it's going to get on the PIF this year, next year. It could be 10 years. Again, don't quote me on that, but we have to figure that out and juxtapose it with all of the other projects. So there's no guarantees that we would have the funding, or no guarantees of when the timing would take place. Because remember, we're landlocked, and this is a 10 to 15,000 square foot facility that we need to try and find space for. So that's another issue, but we'll work on it.
I'm perplexed.
Okay.
So if I vote for this, which I'm inclined to do, it's going to have a financial impact on us. The board is going to have a say on that financial impact. So what we're saying is we want you to do this, we want you to look at this, but before it's built, it's going to come back here and we're going to have to vote to appropriate the money, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Director
Vice
Nowakowski.
President? Yeah, thank you. That would be my comment is, it's going to be part of it's going to have to come back to us as an alternate and a change to the PIF.
Yes.
And then we're going to have to vote on it again.
Yes.
One of the things that I'd like to say is, as it comes and it gets into the PIF, then I think I would like to see a schedule as to when it's going to start and what the time frame is to get it done on the PIF.
Director Nowakowski, I could certainly give you when the funding is available and when we could start. I could not give you an end date. That's not possible until we get into design, location. There's no way we could give you an end date.
I have an objection to that, but that's okay.
All right.
Vice President?
Director Aiken?
The big thing with this is getting it on the PIF, because once it's on the PIF, now you've got the ball started, now you got the ball rolling. Once they get it on the PIF, then he knows that that's something that he's going to start looking into, and we give him full range to look into and try to find the property, try to find the building, try to find all that other stuff. So in order to start this project, it has to go on the PIF first, and then we'll go from there. That's how all the projects work.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Director Aiken. Director Collins, you good? Okay. Okay. So any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So the motion before you is to add to the PIF budget an indoor climate control training and socialization facility outlined by the BFDC business plan. Secretary Lanevsky, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agee.
Absolutely yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's 8-0 in the affirmative.
Okay. So with an 8-0 vote, the motion passes first reading.
Could we waive the second reading on this one?
If you're proposing it.
Are you making a motion to waive the second reading?
I think we need to get started on this if we can, and yes, I'd like to waive the second reading.
Okay, wait a second.
Do we have, I'm trying to get used to this new process.
Yeah. Do we need a second to waive the second reading? Okay, do I have a second to waive the second reading?
Yeah.
Director Collins?
Oh, I can't make it.
Oh, you can, yeah. Okay, Director Fimmel, second reading. So any objections? So we take a Director McAdam?
Yes, I think I disagree with that. I'm completely in favor of the project, but I think we have a process in place. I don't think we're going to lose anything by having it go on the PIF 1 month later than now, and I would prefer for us to stick with our process unless there are really urgent reasons to depart from that.
Okay, any other comments? So since we have the motion to waive the second reading, Secretary Lanevsky, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I vote yes. Vote is 7-1 in the affirmative.
Okay, so we've waived. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, so the next item of new business is a motion for all annual golf passes sold by the RCSC to not include a golf cart. Director Nowakowski.
Thank you, Vice President Heggie. I move that all annual golf cart passes sold by the RCSC do not include golf cart rental as part of the package.
Okay, so do I have a second? Do we have a second?
Second it.
Director McAdam, seconds. So Director Nowakowski, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first for its adoption?
Sure. A lot of discussion on golf and golf items, and I think that this is one of the items that seems to have some issue with our residents, and I think it's prudent for us to do that. And there's been a considerable amount of discussion on it, and some of the history behind it is the Board of Directors actually passed the non-resident with a cart pass in 2010. In 2015, the Board of Directors adjusted golf cart rates for residents only. Nothing was ever looked at for this. I think it's prudent for us to look at this and say, do we really want to treat our non-residents better than we treat our residents? I'll stop there.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Director McAdam?
So I would just like to hear from General Manager Mr. Cook or Mr. Duthu as the Director of Golf about the objections that were raised by Mrs. Curry.
Vice President Agee, Board of Directors, Director McAdam. So yes, so I would respectfully ask that we not pass this, this motion for a few reasons. The first is that it's in the exact same vein as the motion that was passed to add $125,000 in equipment to one of our facilities. It was passed, and I believe, actually, Director Nowakowski and Director McAdam, I believe you voted against that motion, stating that it was an operational decision. And I truly believe that this, as well, is an operational decision. Even President Lair, who is not here today, later regretted that vote, agreeing that it was an operational decision. So I don't want to continue that path where, you know, we are, as management and staff, you know, are not allowed to do our jobs, which is to take a look at things. So, Director McAdam, to answer your question, you know, we are looking at this. We're going through our budget process right now, so our Director of Golf and Director of Finance, we've had many hours of meetings discussing what we want to do from a philosophical perspective going forward with golf. You know, there's the one piece where we want to make sure that we're making enough money to cover our costs, and also to make sure that we're not raising any of the rates for our members. And so there's a fine balance there with respect to that. So we're looking at this, and so one of the things we're looking at is passes. Okay, so don't hold me to this because there's budgets that have to be approved, but we're looking at maybe opening up carts to our members and maybe limiting the number of cart passes for non-members. But let us look at that and let us roll that through the budget, because if you pass this, you're now getting rid of, I believe it's $300,000 in revenue that we would now have to change our budget immediately if you make that decision where we can't, you know, have passes with carts, because that's 80 passes that we sold this year. In addition, well, so that's exactly what we're trying to do, is take a look at that. So I would ask that you not make an operational decision, let us make that decision, and we will try and address that with our members to the greatest extent that we can while we balance, you know, the budgetary process.
Vice President Agee?
Director Collins, or Aiken, sorry.
It has been my understanding that Brian Duthu and Bill Cook have been looking into this already. They have already are working on that, and it is an idea kind of in process. They're trying to figure out a way to work it out. That is like a management responsibility, and I would like to give management a chance to work it out. I don't really want to direct them too early because they know history and they know how to work things, and I trust that they will definitely work it in the benefit of our members. And we are also thinking about the benefit of our members because we always have to do that. So I would like to trust that they will work it out, and they're working on it. From all the discussion I've had, they are working on this, and they have been working on this.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
If I could add one other thing, too, is as it reads, I move that all annual golf passes sold by RC do not include a golf cart. That would preclude us from selling any passes to members as well with a golf cart, which is something that we are actually looking at as well. So,
okay.
So just wanted to add that as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cook. Okay, Secretary Lanefsky.
General Manager Cook, I just want to do some follow-up since this has been an issue for a couple months, or longer, should I say. At the last meeting that we had, there was a motion to raise fees by 500, and I believe you or one of your staff members said that you were looking at raising fees in incremental amounts to see whether that was going to see how it worked. Did you in fact raise any fees or not?
Director Lineski, we did. We raised the non-resident passes by $250 starting August 1st.
And you also said that you wanted to see the reaction.
That's correct.
Okay, are you now looking at the reaction?
It's too soon to tell. We have sold 4 since August 1st. I don't know how that run rate compares to prior years. It's going to take at least 6 months of passes to really understand the effect of that.
If I understand you correctly, you specifically said today that you're considering allowing members to buy passes. Not that you made the decision, but that's under active consideration. Is that correct?
We are looking at it. We've discussed it, and we're looking at it. You have to remember that when we built our golf cart sheds to store our golf carts, it was at a time where the assumption was that most golfers, members, residents would have their own golf carts. So they weren't built to the size of public golf courses today. So we have to, again, find that fine line as well as we have a limited number of golf carts. And so we have to make sure that we please, as many of the members as we possibly can.
Okay. Well, I'm going to vote against this motion. I would strongly urge you to take a look to see what can be done for the members and golf carts.
We are doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Collins.
Yes, I just had a question. Brian, I could ask you. My question is the letter that was read that we don't have enough carts when our people want them, other ones are reserved. I think we approved in the budget to buy new golf carts, quite a bit of money. And my question is, do we take all our golf carts that we have and spread them out on each course every day, all of them? Or are they sitting in a pole barn somewhere not being used and people are not getting them? I mean, if we get down to we only have 2 on the course, maybe somebody should make a phone call, throw some on a trailer and bring them over.
Director Collins, Vice President Agee, members of the board, we do move golf carts around from time to time when it's possible. It's not always, you have to realize that even if we move 10 carts to, say, from South to Riverview, those carts need to be left somewhere overnight, and we don't have the space to leave them overnight at the course that they're moving to, so we have to take that into consideration as well, that the carts are kept safe.
We can't put them back on the trailer, take them back, get them serviced for morning? That's my question. I mean, if Mr. Cook is saying we're going to possibly offer carts to everybody, we can't even accommodate our residents now and the non-residents with the reserve carts. If we did all of them, I mean, I don't see how it's even possible to do that.
I don't think what General Manager Cook was presenting was to offer carts to everyone. The concept would be to limit the number of passes that we have available that would include a golf cart to better manage the finite. The biggest issues we have are Lakes West and North, where they have 14 and 12 carts available for storage.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Vice President Agee. Director Collins, we don't have the staffing to move headcount or to move carts from course to course. We're scrambling at the end of the night just to get the last cart in. If we would do that, it would probably be an extra couple hours at each golf course. We would have to hire staff. We would have to buy trailers. And it wouldn't guarantee that anything would happen in terms of having availability. So if we move 10 from South to Riverview and then all of a sudden we get 10 golfers that want to play and now we don't have carts at South, then we've now just made an issue for South. So at this point, we just would not, that wouldn't be feasible to be able to move carts around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Duthay.
Secretary, or Vice President Iggy, sorry, I forgot what I originally got up to say. We do have a presentation that we're putting together for the next board member exchange that would address some of these issues. So I think the request would be to respectfully wait to at least see what we have presented before a final decision is made.
Okay, thank you. Director McAdam?
So I just want to respond to the analogy that was made to the exercise equipment and whether this is a like situation or not. I don't believe that it is, because the larger issue here is not just an issue of what do contracts look like, but to what degree are residents protected and preferred over non-residents at all times and everywhere. And I think we've heard from Mrs. Curry, her own experiences, that quite often residents are not prioritized. And for that reason, I do think that this is a proper decision for the board to be making. I am thankful for the counter arguments that you've made, that you've said that, we're actually looking into this, about perhaps allowing RCSC members to also purchase plans that include a golf cart. But I want to just come back to the larger question of your having said that the assumption was that most regular players that are members here have their own carts. And my question is simply, if we didn't have, so presumably all our non-resident people need carts, is my guess. Virtually all of them do, because they're coming from outside of Sun City. So are we looking at trying to increase the number of carts we have and the number of barns that we have in order to accommodate non-residents?
Vice President Iggy, Board of Directors, Director McAdam. So just to clarify, I didn't say that most have them. I said that I believe when we built these golf courses at the time, the assumption was that a lot of members would have their own golf courses. So it wasn't built to the size of a public golf course in that day. Now, we are definitely seeing a trend where residents are no longer carrying their own golf courses or golf carts, or they aren't purchasing them, or they don't own them, just because of the cost and storage and such. So we are seeing a higher level. I don't believe we're at a level that, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're at an emergency level where we're seeing a lot of members being denied carts, and we are trying to prioritize that. But I do believe if this trend continues, we will have to take a look at increasing the number of carts at some of our facilities and putting in, adding more PIF type items to increase our cart barns and increase carts. So I believe that's something that probably will have to take place, within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, my concern is not having to purchase more carts in order to service residents. It's just that if we have 10,000 rounds per year that are being played by non-residents, almost all of whom don't have a golf cart, my concern is simply how much money we're spending of my 100-year-old neighbor who never gets on a golf course is going to be funding additional golf carts in order to accommodate non-resident play, and that is something that's a matter of quite a bit of concern to me.
Again, it's we're trying to find that. We have to find that fine line of the revenue versus trying to keep rates down for everybody. It's I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a juggling act. We have to find that.
My whole point is that when it's not as though the additional play that we get from selling non-resident annual passes is only a win. It's not as, and I think this is what's missing from the discussion, is how many costs are associated with that. And if we're talking about needing that many more golf carts, that's a cost that is being borne by our members and not by non-residents who are coming to play.
We could also make that argument with guests. There's people that don't have guests. There's people who do have guests all the time. Those guests also take up golf carts. So, I mean, we have to look at...
There's a substantial difference between a member's guest and a non-resident stranger that doesn't have a relationship with anybody in this community.
I guess I don't think we would have any issues getting rid of all outside play, but if we're held to a revenue number after that fact, which has been prior to this, we've been attacked because we're not covering the golf expenses, and we're supposed to be breaking even. If we're not held to that standard, then and golf rates can go up because of that, and we're not taking now have the golfers who now are paying $5 more or $463 more for their pass, then I think that would be great. But I think we'll have an issue with that. And we do talk. I've gone out with Brian on the men's day out at South, and we drove around and talked to golfers out there and asked specific questions about the play at South when we didn't overseed, and we just used dives down there and tried to really understand. And, I don't believe we get a lot of issues with respect to what we're talking about today, but we're trying to address those that we do. Thank you.
Mr. Duthie. Oh.
Thank you.
Director Nowakowski.
One of the interesting things that we always talk about, we seem to talk about the revenue stream and how we can manage it and the business package of this. 2015, there was something that was changed just in golf carts, and we lost $20,000, $10,000 a month for 2 months, $20,000 in 2015. We didn't make up that increase for the next 5 years. We lost $100,000 in golf cart revenue. I don't know why. I haven't been able to find it. So, some of the arguments are good, Bill, Mr. General Manager, but I don't buy all of them for that reason. If there was a complete review of that, then we should have looked at that in 2016 and say, why did we lose those dollars? Yes, there is a business aspect of this. There's also a service to the community aspect of this. There's both.
Mr. Duthie.
Vice President Ege, Director McAdam, Director Collins, I left something on the table when Mr. Collins was asking about the golf cart purchases. Those weren't additional golf carts that we were purchasing. They were just to replace the golf carts at Riverview that are going on 12 years old now. So we're not increasing our fleet size. We're just replacing golf carts.
Did we get those yet?
Unfortunately, no. With supply chain issues, they were ordered last December. At the time that I placed the order, I was told that we could expect them February of 2023. At Mr. Cook's urging, I called him to try to see if we could push that up, and they bumped it back another 2 months on me. So,
thank you.
I think that regardless of what you put in place, you've got to remember that nothing is a flawless system. There's always going to be flaws in it. And the only thing we can do is try to make sure that we take care of everybody, take everybody into consideration. But there is no such thing as a perfect system. And there are going to be some mishaps. There are going to be some people that fall through the cracks, and some people that something happens that they don't get exactly what they want. That happens to a lot of times. A lot of people, we hate to see that happen. Unfortunately, it does happen.
Okay. All right. General Manager Cook.
Thank you, Vice President Ege, Board of Directors. So I can also say that, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always a golf cart available at one of our golf courses at any given time. We are never in a position where every single golf cart is out on the course. So I get that people want to play South or they want to play their golf course, but if they call another course, I would almost guarantee that there is a cart available somewhere at some other course. So, it's just like anything else. We have a limited number of supplies, so sometimes we have to say, okay, instead of South, I'll play Riverview or whatever. So I just want to make sure. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Okay, Director McAdam.
I'm going to try something here. I would like to make a friendly amendment to this motion, in that we strike the word all and insert instead non-resident, so that I move that non-resident annual golf passes sold by RCSC do not include a golf cart rental as part of the package.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I don't think I can second it. So.
Just a second. Director McAdam, could you repeat what you just said?
So it would be changing this motion to, I move that non-resident annual golf passes sold by RCSC do not include a golf cart rental as part of the package. My rationale for that is simply that if you're thinking about selling passes to residents with a golf cart as part of the package, that would give you the freedom to do that. But it would simply remove this issue that we have, that outsiders who are buying the package and getting carts, they're getting them ahead of Sun City residents who come as daily greens fee payers.
Right, correct. So do I have a second for the amendment?
Well, I'll second that. I want to hear discussion.
Okay. So just discussion?
I would like to hear a discussion what Mr. Cook thinks of that idea.
Vice President Agee, Director Collins, again, I respectfully ask that you not pass this motion. I do believe that is something that, now you would severely limit what we can do in terms of, the budget this year. I believe it is an operational decision that staff and general manager and my staff are tasked to do. You will immediately eliminate $300,000 in revenue. And so I will say that we're going to need to find that. So, because if we can't sell the non-resident passes with a cart, we'll lose 80 passes potentially. They're not going to buy them. So that's a potential downside to that.
Okay, Director McAdam, we've kind of discussed this over and over again, but
Well, Mr. Cook, I'm afraid that I need to take objection to that, because all that we're suggesting is that just like residents who have to get in line to get a golf cart pass, and if they want to play at South, but we say, no, there's another place that you can play, they would have that option as well. So, and the reason that I don't think that this is strictly an operational matter is that it's the board's responsibility to protect residents and to make sure that residents always have priority when it comes to the usage of our facilities. And you've just finished telling us that a member can always, I'd like to play at South, but he can always find another court that he can play at. That same thing would hold true to non-resident annual pass holders. We could tell them, sorry, you can't play at North today, you're going to have to play somewhere else where there's a cart available. But they would have to get in line the same way that members have to get in line.
okay. So I'd like to call into the debate. I hear what you're saying. So Secretary Linefsky, will you take a roll call vote for the amendment to Director Nowakowski's motion?
Okay, Director Collins.
We're voting on the amendment only. Okay.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiken.
No.
Vice President Agee.
No.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
No.
And I vote no. It's a tie, 4-4.
So the motion for the amendment fails. Okay. So now we'll take a vote on the motion as read by Director Nowakowski. Secretary Linefsky.
Director Collins. Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
No.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
No.
Vice President Agee.
No.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
No.
And I vote no. It fails 3-5.
Okay. So the motion fails with a vote of 3 in favor and 5 opposed. The motion fails. So now I'd like to ask the directors if they have anything to report to the members on their committee or liaison.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
being in charge of the COC, or the Club Organization Committee, we are currently in need of just a couple more volunteers. We have people this time who are going out in categories of clubs. They're not assigned to a particular club. They meet just 4 times a year. And they're called in by our club's office only if there is a club dispute that they can go in and help facilitate. So I'm looking for 2 more volunteers. If anyone would be interested in doing that, I urge you to call the corporate office. Thank you.
Okay, any other, Director Collins?
Yes, as liaison for the Sun City Fire Department, I'm here to talk a little bit about Proposition 310. It's in a recap, it's an effort of the PFFA, FCA, and AFDA. It's a temporary 1/10 of 1 cent sales tax. Simply stated, it will cost 1 penny for each $10 you spend. The fire districts will all receive a proration share of this. What that means is any of the fire districts would be the only ones available to this 1/10 of 1%. Cities would not be entitled to it. So Surprise wouldn't get it, Flagstaff wouldn't get it, only the fire districts. We are a fire district in Sun City, so this money would be directly coming to us. Daisy Mountain is another one. There's a bunch of rural fire departments that can use this money to put on staffing, to buy equipment. The whole idea is get your response time down. I mean, whether you had a heart attack or a house fire, 5 minutes is your magic number. After 5 minutes, everything depreciates very, very quickly. So please consider that and talk to people and check into it and make your own decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Collins. Any other? Secretary Lanefsky.
I just have a brief comment. The Long Range Planning Committee was informed that the Arizona State University contract regarding surveys and things of that has been signed, and we're looking forward as a Long Range Planning Committee to work with on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Lanefsky. Any other? Director McAdam.
Yes, I'm the liaison for SHOA, the Sun City Homeowners Association, and just want to encourage anybody who's not a member, you don't have to join, but encourage you to do so voluntarily, that they are having an event for new residents in early October, the Palm Brook Country Club, and encourage you to keep your eyes open and to either take advantage of it yourself or to let new neighbors know that that's an event that's there, put on their behalf.
Okay. Thank you, Director McAdam. Any other directors, any comments? Okay, so the next.
Okay, just a second. I may have made a misstatement on a motion. On a vote, I may have said 3 to 5, and it may have been 4 to 4. I refer to the parliamentarian for a second. Which one was it?
No.
3 to 5.
There's 3 to 5. I have it.
It was 3 to 5.
Okay.
The amendment was 4 to 4.
Yeah.
The amendment was 4.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can watch the tape. Yes. Okay. Thank you. The next member board exchange is on October 10th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at Sundial Auditorium. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on October 27th, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the Sundial Auditorium. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. Don't forget to turn your phones back on if you turn them off.
Will you take a break before the planning session?
Hearing no objections, this meeting is adjourned.
We'll be taking a break before the planning session?
So now we're going to talk about a planning session. We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.